Welcome to Filling You In, a dental podcast with A Squared, where dentist entrepreneurs and spouses, Dr. Anushka Gaglani and Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj, welcome industry experts and innovators to explore trends in business practices, patient care, career development, and what it takes to be successful in dentistry.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Filling You In. I am Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani, collectively known as A Squared. Some level of conflict among employees is a given, but the amount of friction can increase as businesses scale, creating a barrier to success. That's why we are thrilled to have Dina Lynch Eisenberg with us today to talk about her new AI-powered conflict readiness simulator called Talkola that lets leaders practice high-stakes discussions in a private sandbox, then delivers instant, data-driven coaching.
Talkola is built on decades of Dina's experience as a dispute resolution expert who has served in the roles of ombuds, mediator, facilitator, and conflict coach, working in multiple industries with major companies such as Bank of America, Coca-Cola, and Twitter. With the philosophy of less drama, more dentistry, Dina started specializing in the dental field several years ago with her company Happy Practice Consulting, and we're really looking forward to tapping her wisdom about how to turn workplace conflicts into stepping stones for success in dentistry and other fields. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dina.
I'm so excited to join both of you. I have to say that I'm always happy to see your content. I love the perspective that you bring to owning practices and how you lead. So I'm excited to talk with you.
Thank you so much
Likewise,
for
we
the kind
appreciate
words. Likewise, the pleasure is ours. I'd like to dive in, Dina, but before we get into the specifics about Talkola, we want to explore your career journey a little bit. How did you first get involved with conflict resolution?
Wow, now there is a question. I kind of think it was meant to be my calling. As a teenager, I was severely bullied, like I had an ulcer at 12. And so I knew what it was like to be in a situation where you didn't feel like you had the wherewithal, the confidence, the skills to speak up. That sort of led to me going to law school. And my first career out of law school was as a healthcare attorney. And my job was to hold doctors accountable for sexual misconduct and chemical dependency. Often the folks that I worked with the most were women who had been abused by their psychiatrists. And what I discovered in doing that work is that it's very hard to go through that kind of process alone, that you need support. These women would often have to tell their stories about 25 different times to strangers who likely didn't believe them. Oftentimes, their spouses didn't believe that they got into the situation they did with the doctor because it just seems unrealistic. And yet, it's a pretty common occurrence to have happen. So from that, I took away the idea that people need to be more conflict ready. They need to have the mindset and the skills to be able to speak up for themselves. And I kind of think it's a superpower when you become conflict ready, because honestly now, there's not much that could happen that's going to throw me off my game, because I understand how to conceptualize what's going on, figure out what I need and what the other person needs, and then engage them in a conversation of where we might both get what we want. How wonderful is that? So that's sort of how I came into conflict management. I love doing the work because it allows me to help people understand that they are empowered in their own lives and that things don't just happen to them, that they have choices about what they want to do to the things that happen, and not necessarily feel so helpless about it. I got to dentistry because dental education and lawyer education are so similar in that we are very, very good technicians. Like, we learn how to do our jobs very well. What we don't learn out of school is how to run a business or how to lead people. We do not learn how to be self-reflective and understand how our behavior impacts our teams. And so I'm like, okay, I can certainly help with this process because I understand. I've had the stigma of being a lawyer and getting all those lawyer jokes. So I understand why it's not so wonderful as a dentist to hear somebody say, like, I'd rather run into traffic than see you, which people have said in the past is just a horrible thing. But I understand why that makes somebody less willing to engage in conflict, right? You need your team to like you. You need to show up in the morning feeling like these people got my back. And so
Yeah.
if someone is doing something wrong, you're like, let me think about this. Relationship or correction? Oh, I'd rather have a relationship. Thank you.
Hmm.
Right on.
Two things you said really resonated. One is people are empowered. You're not a victim. We are all in control of our own destiny. I absolutely love that. And then, the second thing is around not learning how to run a business or lead in dental school. You're absolutely right about that. I think that's one of the things that was the biggest learning curve for me personally. So, I love that you brought that to the forefront. So, Dina, what are some of the key principles you've learned along the way about having difficult conversations and resolving conflict?
Oh, how long we got? The key principle, I think, is that we as humans are taught by our parents that somebody else should manage conflict for us. I don't know about you, but my mom used to say, if you get into trouble at school, see the teacher, right? The teacher will take care of it. So right from the beginning, we're not empowered to join those conversations. Don't have confidence around them. And so often we're thinking from our own perspective, like, this is going to be hard for me. I don't want to say something that messes up our relationship. I don't want somebody to think a certain thing about me. And that causes us to avoid, right? Because we don't want to have those feelings. But the truth of the matter is that conflict is a neutral thing. It's not positive, it's not negative, it's neutral. It's what you do with it that causes either negative or positive results. So that's the first thing that I learned. It's like, oh, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be in conflict. It is an occurrence that happens in life, right? We're humans. As long as there's people, there's going to be conflict. Cannot get past that. But if you can learn that that's normalized, it's not a bad thing, and that you have some choices, that's a great place to start. Then getting to the point where you feel like you have the right words. Because often clients will say to me, well, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I totally understand that because nobody wants to be perceived as wrong. The thing is, I don't think people recognize is that you don't have to have the answer of the right thing to say. What you need to have is a mindset that questions what could happen in the situation? What could I say? What does this person need? Right? We always enter it like, I got a plan. This is how it's going to be solved. It's going to get done. Where it's much better to enter with curiosity. What
Yeah.
do I know about this situation? What do I know about the other person? What do I want to see happen here? And how will that impact other people? Right? So those are the things about conflicts that if people understood better, they'd be having more what we might call hard conversations. They become easier when you understand the foundation around them. So when I don't know what to say, what I say is, gosh, I'm not certain what to say here. What I'd like to see happen is X, or what I'd like you to know is Y. But I don't have the quite words for that yet. Can you help me with that? Right? That does so much good, right? To admit, hey, I'm a vulnerable person. I'm engaged in a conversation and I'm nervous about having a good outcome. I don't know what to say, but I trust you enough to tell you that and ask for your assistance and figuring out, where we go with this conversation.
I like that a lot. A couple of things that resonated with me. One of the things you said, Dina, is it's definitely easy to avoid conflict, right? That's the easier path. The harder path is to tackle it head on. And that's something that, both Anushka and I've had to kind of learn the hard way in business. But being a dentist, you get hit with multiple things. One is you've got to resolve conflict with your patients when they're not happy. And you've also got to at the same time resolve conflict with your team members if they're not happy. And you said something about curiosity, and I think that really is like one of our biggest learns too, and that's why this is resonating so much, because when you stay curious, you get people's guard down, and I think that's the key. I think you would agree that that's the key to getting conflict resolution. Before I have a couple more thoughts on that I want to dive deeper, but before that, I think you coined the term shadow friction. What does that mean, and what role does it play in workplaces?
Yeah. Shadow friction is something I discovered over my years of working in the different industries. Everybody thinks they're different, but essentially all the same. And it comes down to this concept of we think that conflict is yelling and screaming and throwing things around the room. That's what comes to mind for
Mm.
us. But it's actually the quiet friction that really damages practices in relationships. And what that looks like is totally different. It's
Mm.
not the yelling and screaming, it's the interrupting in the huddle where I can't get my idea out because somebody is already saying, well, we already did that. That didn't work last time.
Mhm.
It is the fact that the thermostat has a tug of war going on. Some people want this temperature, some people want that temperature, and we're fighting about what temperature it should be when it's really kind of a non-issue, but people have opinions. And now I think because you want it to be hotter, how dumb could you be? Of course we need it to be cooler, right? So I'm thinking some things about you. We're having these experiences. Shadow is friction is when you have an interaction with someone that is not large enough to raise as a big concern, but it bothers you. It hurts your feelings. It annoys you. And you can't move past it. So it changes the way that you think about the other person and the way that you interact with them, whether you're conscious of it or not. If you move my lunchbox around the refrigerator one more time, I'm going to have a fit and you're going to feel it. Whether I say it to you directly, I'm now going to be treating you in a different way because you are disrespecting my lunch. That's what
Yeah.
shadow friction is. And I think it's one of those things where it's easy for the dentist to pass that off, right? Because you're not everywhere. You are busy doing your thing. So you're not in the break room hearing those conversations. You're not in the hall. And so when someone brings it up, you're like, I didn't see that. Okay, well, I trust you're an adult. You'll figure that out. And the thing is, while we are all adults, we don't always act like adults. And you cannot rely on someone else's skill set. You need to give them the skills, give them your vision for what's going to happen, and then expect them, hold them accountable to live to that value or standard.
It's so interesting you say that. I think it's Mel Robbins who says that most adults are 8-year-olds in adult bodies.
Yeah, I say
And
15-year-olds.
15, yeah, yeah. Well, I think it depends on the person. I've definitely met some 8-year-olds, but it's one of those things that I didn't realize that until we became business owners. And it's every day, like you said, there are things that are to us non-issues, but it's such a big deal. And it's interesting, kind of almost taking on a parenting role with people who are the same age, older. Sometimes it's quite interesting, but it's something we have to do as leaders.
Yeah,
So thank you for bringing that up.
I
Um,
totally agree. It's a leadership gap I've been talking about, and as that way, and there's a human performance gap, right? We all, as humans, have a trouble with engaging in conflict, and it's not been important for us to fill the gap unless personally something happens in your life and you're like, okay, I got to get better at this. But in a business sense, it hasn't been a priority, but now it's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years.
yeah, definitely agree. So, Dina, you built the first Buds office at Twitter and have worked with organizations of all sizes. How does the size of an organization impact your approach?
That's an interesting question. In my mind, I think it doesn't really, but I understand that people would think that there would be. So always I'm entering building a program with the idea that I need to understand what the culture is like first and why they think it's important for them to have an ombuds program. And for those who don't know, an ombuds is a conflict management expert that specializes in organizational health and conflict. And so I want to know what's going on in your environment that causes you to want to have this kind of help. And are you committed to doing the things you need to do? That's the tricky part, right? One of the great things about opening Twitter's program is that they were totally committed to the privacy of the office. So when you have an ombuds, there are lots of things as an organization you might want to ask the ombuds, but you make a commitment not to because you want the data, you don't necessarily want the verbatim. So as an ombuds, all my conversations are confidential. What you say to me never goes anywhere else. And for organizations, particularly HR or maybe compliance, that is a hard thing to hear. That I would know something that the compliance officer didn't know. And so
Mm.
the organization has to be okay with that, because the upside for them is, while I'm not telling the compliance officer, I am telling senior leadership, okay, on in this quarter, here are the issues that came up. Here are the things you need to really address pretty quickly, or they're going to turn into something else that you don't want. So you're still getting the information and insights. You're just not getting them in the way that you're used to getting them. And for some organizations, that's kind of hard. For other organizations, they're kind of thinking about using ombuds work as, how could I say this nicely? Uh, Hard to do. So the hit list. They want to know who complains, so those folks get on their hit list, right?
Mm.
And we don't want that. I like working with smaller, it's like independent and small groups, because often they don't have an HR person there to take up those issues. Usually it's the practice owner or the leadership who are dealing with conflicts or team drama. And maybe they don't have enough time. It's not it's not their preference to deal with those kinds of issues. Um, or they're just really stuck. They got to a place where I don't know what to do about this situation. And that's why I think it's important to have that resource where you can reach out to somebody and say, who's an expert in that, and saying, we're kind of stuck now. Here's what we've been trying to do. Can you help us think differently about the situation? So I think small independents and small groups definitely need to have some kind of contacts or resource that is around conflict management. And for big organizations like larger DSOs and those folks, they absolutely have to have it, because
Yeah.
shadow friction reduces their deal value, right? When you get to PMI, which is post-merger integration, that's when the rubber hits the road. If you can't get the new team integrated where they're going to pay attention, they're not going to question every judgment or rule, they're not going to resist you, then what you bought was an asset that can't be fully realized. So you really have to focus on, okay, how can we get everybody moving in the same direction? How can we get everybody in the right seats? Because often you're changing roles of people or giving them a new role, and folks don't like that. And so you really do need to have a plan for the people part of the due diligence and the integration.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a ton of sense. Dina, we want to talk about your new venture, Talkola. How does this work, and what's your target audience?
I love talking about Talkola because I think it's such a simple idea. It was sorely needed, and it's like, okay, I got that. So what I noticed, and I'll just tell you the story of how it happened. I was working with an organization that had an HR person who, in the past, had mediation training. Very cool. I always recommend that HR folks take mediation. And she wanted to handle an interpersonal dispute between two team members. And I was like, great, that's cool. But she came to me an hour before she was going to go into the meeting and was like, hey, can you just give me some tips and pointers? I'm like, oh, yes, but probably I wouldn't have done it this way, but okay. And I gave her the tips. And the last thing I said is, remember your role. And she went into the meeting and completely forgot what I said. She
Oh my
put
gosh.
on her HR hat and left it on. I was like, you can't be in your HR role and have this conversation.
Yeah.
But she ran it like a regular meeting, and the person who was bullying just took advantage. They ran roughshod over the other person. They yelled, they accused, they demanded, and the HR person was able to get them out of the room. But very shortly after, the other person filed a harassment claim.
Oh
Why?
gosh.
Because that meeting exposed them to a hostile work environment, right? And then I was like, how did that happen? She hadn't practiced at all. She was not in the right mindset, and the skills weren't there for her. And so for me, that was a light bulb moment that leaders need the mindset and they need to practice. And so that's where Talkola came from. The way it works is that you, as a leader or practice owner, and I'm really initially focusing on independent practices and small groups, because no HR person will want to give them the support. You go into it and you take a little assessment. We tell you something that you don't already know about yourself, your conflict style. Are you competitive? Are you accommodating? Are you avoiding? Do you like to collaborate? Because that really impacts how you have those conversations. So we give you that insight. Then you pick a scenario. Maybe you want to talk about the undermining nurse or the hygienist and the assistant battle. And you start the scenario. And the AI agent is going to act as that character. You're going to start the conversation. And because I know it's so hard for people to start the conversation, we give you the prompts. So you have 3 prompts that you can pick to start the conversation. So you learn how to do that. Then you talk to the AI agent. And I'll just tell you now, it's designed to give you a little bit of a challenge. So it's not the easiest conversation. And we want to make sure that you feel like you're comfortable with a hard conversation, really complex. So when you have them ready, you want to realize it's like, oh, this is nothing. The AI will give you tips based on your style. So if you have a competing style and you're just running through that conversation, it's going to pause you and say, hey, do you want to ask some questions? That might be helpful. So that you realize, oh, okay, I'm not asking any questions, and that's going to be helpful. At the end, you get a score. So you get a skill score that says, okay, here's how well you did. And over time, you're able to track your progress to see if you're actually improving as you go on. And then in later versions, we'll have different levels of difficulty. So once you master one level, you'll be able to move up to another level. The conversations get more complex, really kind of challenging you. And the goal really is to help you increase your confidence, right? So you don't feel like you have to have every word in place. You don't feel like, you have to take charge of the conversation and drive it. That you can have a collaborative conversation that includes both you and the other person, where you're both on the same side trying to figure out how we'll get this done, compared to the other way, which is you're on your side, I'm on mine. I want what I want, you want you want. We're just going to duke it out until somebody wins. The platform kind of avoids doing that, and I think it'll just increase people's confidence just in general. Of course, I want this for the business setting, but I will say that it's important to me that doing this work improves your home life, right? The same skills that you're going to be using in the office with the team, now you're going to be using at home with your spouse or your kids. So for me, that's really the heart of it.
Yeah, I really love this concept. We do something a little similar, obviously not the AI, but with the role playing. It's almost like role playing. We tell our new dentists, we walk them through how to role play with different patient objections. And we are the difficult patients. We do exactly what you said, because we're like, if we're the pain in the butt, then you're going to find it much easier with someone who's challenging everything you do. I absolutely love that concept. And also how those skills transfer into your home life. I think that's something people don't remember. When you build those skills at work, it affects every area of your life.
Yeah,
Correct. And practice makes perfect too, right? To your point, Dina, the best athletes, they all practice. They don't just go into a game. Michael Jordan just didn't go into the arena and wing it, right? But somehow in dental, that's what we do a lot, right? We just go there thinking we're going to just wing this, whether this is a tough conversation with the patient, right? So we've got to practice is something we tell our dentists and our team members a lot.
Practice, it definitely, I wouldn't say it makes perfect, but I would say it makes progress and confidence for sure.
Yes.
And the reason I'm really excited about doing this is because when you get to a point where you're very confident and you feel like you're conflict ready and your whole team is conflict ready, then you have something that's a competitive advantage that I call retention assurance. It means that you don't have to worry about people storming out because they can't get along with somebody else. Everybody knows how to start a hard conversation, how to progress it to a good resolution. And the expectation, hopefully, the dentist makes is that now that's your job. My expectation is that you're going to solve things at the lowest level. You're not going to escalate because now you know how to solve it. That means you're going to retain more of your people, and you know for certain now how tough it is to recruit new folks. So it's just a savings all the way around. You're saving your best people. You're protecting your profit. It makes a lot of sense to focus on retention insurance now because the labor crisis is not going to go away anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so absolutely true. Dina, last question. Can you share some examples of how you're seeing this approach work?
Yes, yes, yes. So, okay, now I have to think about what I can say because I promise my clients privacy. And I'm always like, can you see that? This is my mind filter. But we were working with a small team, and their front desk was really kind of struggling with clients who came in and either they didn't like hearing the treatment plan because it was expensive. And the front desk person often was challenged with asking for payment because they'd gotten so much, how can I say this well? Noise, I guess we could say, from patients about, oh my gosh, it's so expensive and blah, 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 blah. They became hyper sensitive to that. And they would do anything to sort of just move somebody along. So maybe they're putting off asking for payment or they're putting up with yelling. And we worked them through going to Talkola and they practiced. Well, and the most important thing they practice is not buying into that person's conflict, not buying into and being baited by them to be mean back, to shift their focus to why that person might be reacting in the way they're reacting. Like there are several options why people get upset and don't want to pay. And by helping that front desk person practice, like not getting upset and then asking questions. Okay, so I hear you're saying that the payment is a challenge. Tell me more about that, right? So that then she was able to feel like she was helping solve the problem. Like, 'cause now I know, oh, you have an expense coming up. I can't make that decision, but we can talk about having somebody else talk to you about how a payment plan or getting a loan. So she felt less like she was just grabbing money and more like she could be instrumental in finding a solution so the person would be happier. She learned to ask these open-ended questions, and the patients liked it because they weren't getting asked about why they were resisting in the past. So it made them feel like, oh, somebody sees me and hears me and wants to know. Okay, I'm going to tell you what's going on. And it made it a lot easier for her to deal with those folks. So of course, collections went up. And she was like, okay, now I know how to ask you for the money and deal with you when you get upset and offer you some solutions. So that's one of the things I've been saying.
I love that. That's a win-win all the way around. Well, for the doctor, the practice, her, and the patient.
And the
Yeah.
patient. Yes.
Well, Dina, we're going to go into a quick lightning round. So,
All right.
3 questions. The first one, what was your last impulse buy?
I just bought a new dress the other day. I've been watching it and I was like, that will look pretty cute on me. But you know, sometimes you're like, but I was like, I'm just going to buy it. And it just showed up this week. And I was like, I look so doggone cute. I love this dress. So that was the impulse buy.
Oh, that's
Nice.
great. That's a really good buy. What are the least likely 3 words someone would use to describe you?
Oh, I think no one would describe me as uncaring or dishonest or outside of integrity. And certainly no one would describe me as boring or not fun.
I believe that, to the uncaring piece. I know we had a situation a few months ago and we came and talked to you, and we really appreciated how generously and freely you gave your time to us to talk it through. So I definitely agree. That's one of the things you're definitely very
Absolutely.
caring.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's important to me.
Yes, definitely. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, you mean my theme song? I think every person should have a theme song. You know,
Okay.
just something that maybe you can sing to yourself. You're like, ah. Mine is Just Fine by Mary J. Blige. I'm a terrible singer, but I don't mind
Hey.
singing that one. I just get in there and yell the lyrics. So it really kind of touches my heart. And the lyrics are really about loving where you are right now, loving yourself deeply, and not wishing for changes in your life, because where you are right now is just fine.
Yeah. Oh, I love that message. And you know what? I love the concept of a theme song. I'm going to have to start thinking on mine.
I'm going to ask you, what is your theme song?
I know mine. I want to be a billionaire. So
Oh, okay. I'm down with that one too. Maybe I'm going to borrow yours.
That's the one that I constantly sing to myself. So
I think you just like the tune. I don't know if it's the word so much. I think the tune is very catchy.
Both work for me. If you don't think about it, you can't be it.
No, not at all. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dina. It was truly a pleasure.
I just enjoyed the conversation. I hope that people will have lots of takeaways. If folks want to ask me about it, I'm totally open to answering questions.
Definitely. Dina, I'm sure they can reach you on LinkedIn as well, and probably look up Talkola.
Yep, definitely have a look at Talkola. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm just sort of excited that I got to talk to both of you at once. I'm sorry that I missed you at Dykema.
Oh, us too.
Take care.
But next time we'll definitely plan. I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani.
I'm Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj. Thanks for checking out today's show, and we hope you can join us again next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Filling You In, where we uncover the insights, trends, and stories shaping the dental industry. If you like this podcast, please share it on your social channels and visit Areo Dental Group on LinkedIn or on Instagram @Areo Dental Group. You can also subscribe to the series and check out all of our episodes on this YouTube channel or at areodental.com/podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and let's keep elevating the dental field together.